Everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Boys. I am Nick, your best friend professionally.
And I am Jair El Broki from Albuquerque.
I love that. And we are back with a new and improved episode. I hope you liked that theme song. It's we got that in the mail and we're just so happy.
I cry every time.
That is from our friend Cameron, and he's out of Spokane. He's fantastic. You know, if you need any hookups.
How long did it take for him to do that? It was so quick.
A couple hours.
Yeah.
He just whipped up together all of our orders. We wanted something light, not abrasive, catchy, and either kind of in a jazzy or kind of a synthy vaporwave feel, and there it was. So love that. That is a new addition to the family, as well as hopefully some post-production. I'd love to comment on it right now, but that's in the future. But I've been working on that, and I think we're going to be delivering a better episode.
For sure.
Okay. Let's talk about, first of all, what's on the agenda today.
Oh.
First off, we got our notes out here.
Our fancy lists on our fancy $1,000 iPads.
Oh, yes, our $1,000 iPads. What's first on the agenda?
We're going to talk about some Carcassonne.
Yes, really excited to talk about that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Jair's got a fun story with that one. Then we'll be hitting up with High Society.
Yeah.
One of my most played games in the last several months. And I thought we played before. I realized we hadn't. And I'm very curious.
And you've never won at it.
I've never won. Ever. And it's just quickly shooting up. Neither have you. And then we'll talk about our latest endeavors in Scythe.
Yes.
And
episode 2.
Yes. That was exciting. Then we're, gonna cover our tea time as always.
Of course.
We'll find any excuse to make that noise. And then give you a little bit of an update on the games. It was kind of a week. It was a week for summer camp, but we come up with some fun ideas, and we'll cover those as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But first, how you doing, Jair?
Pretty good. Just settling in. I just recently moved to a new place. I was living in an apartment complex, but now I am living in the garage of this lady, and I.
Can you tell them about the neighborhood, because it's a very unique neighborhood?
Oh yeah, so it's the war zone. So I am in danger at all times. Not really. It used to be the war zone. It's called Martineztown. I think all the old gangbangers are very, very old, so they're very irrelevant now. And now it's just a lot of cute Mexican families just moving into the neighborhood. They are wholesome and they play music every Sunday, and I love it because it makes my Latino roots just blush with happiness. Like, yes, Spanish.
When you told me about the idea of all the gangsters just getting old, like hanging up all their gangsterness, and then just having families, and that's exactly what it feels like. There's all the art. All those classic houses, and like you said, the music. When we were moving you in, the guy next door was just blasting
like cumbia. I think I don't know if it was cumbia or just an.
It was just good. It was fun, and you have nice digs there, so that's really cool.
And I said I'm living in the garage of this lady, but it's actually just a garage that's been built into be kind of like a little room. And she is not just a lady; she is my roommate. So shout outs to Teresa. She's really cool. And I don't think she'll be listening to this, but that's all right.
She's really good at piano.
She's really good at piano.
Very good at piano.
Yeah.
We came in, I think, on Moonlight Sonata was the first time I met her. I was like, that is the best first impression.
Yeah, she's really cool.
People can make. I love it.
For sure. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing good. My big thing amongst many, I would say, is that recently I got my third stripe in jiu-jitsu. I'm still a white belt, but I have been plugging hard away for that one, and I got that. Jiu-jitsu is the slowest progression in martial art belts.
Okay.
I'm not. I have a friend whose New Year's resolution was he was taking up Hapkido and Taekwondo, I think.
Of course.
And he
all
started.
Those things I know.
Yes, he picked him up, and he started New Year's, and he should be a black belt before the end of the year. And I was just like, he was showing pictures of him with his green belt, which is just weird to me because I don't have green in my thing, but that's different. But he had like 4 other belts stacked on his neck, and I'm just sitting here like, what? I'm not judging. I don't understand the art. I don't know how they work, but it's just so different. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, in your first year, if you consistently come, which I have not been able to due to life, I have very limited availability for it, but I am showing up at half as much. And for a regular person, it should take you a year to go from white to blue.
Okay.
Just that one transition.
How many? Is it just the one transition between white and blue?
You get stripes up to you have 4 stripes on a belt, and then you change.
Okay.
It goes white, blue, purple, brown, and black, and that's all for adult jiu-jitsu. And so I'm one away from qualifying for a blue. I got to do a whole bunch of research on it. I'm excited, but it was really fun. And then in the roll, I was pulling off this really fun thing I've been drilling with omoplatas, where you, if anybody knows what the triangle is, putting people in a triangle hold with your legs.
I sure don't.
It's pretty much one leg has reached around behind you, has caught your head and your one arm.
That sounds awful.
It's really awful. And then you hold on to that leg while your other leg like locks into place. And then you just slowly suffocate them with your pelvis.
Now,
it's fantastic.
Now, I have a question. At what point do you feel you feel like you have the ability to kill a person with a spoon?
Spoon? I do not need spoons where I am going. I almost ripped out somebody's shoulder because the thing is the way you counter the triangle is by sitting up. They've got you down like this, and you're choking out. Yeah, and if they just sit up, they can slowly break it. But you want them to, because then they post their arm. You take that the leg that's behind them, and you swing it forward, and you feel so cool because you feel like a jet. Like, when you start jiu-jitsu and you're doing your little holds, your chokes, they're effective, and you know it feels cool. Like, oh wow, I'm really choking this person, and this, I'm like, good job. But it doesn't feel like Hollywood cool. No. Going into the swinging their body around, and then like putting their arm in a lock. It feels cool. And I did it twice, and I was like, yes.
Now Nick is artfully displaying all of these movements in the floor as we speak.
Yes. I'm so
sorry
glad.
You can't see it.
Yes. Imagine me flying through the room and just always being equidistant to the mic. I am very skilled. That was fun. That was fun.
Times.
Okay, so let's go into our first one here. Jair, tell us about Carcassonne. How do you play Carcassonne?
Carcassonne. All right, so it's kind of like a tile-laying game. You have different tiles of different types. You're basically building little cities and roads that surround the cities and little fields that surround the cities. And the goal is to place your meeples. You have 7 meeples that you can place on any of these spots when you place a tile, and depending on how you lay out a city, if you create a whole city, because you might need more different tiles to make a whole city. Once you have the city full, that meeple you place there, it scores you certain points. Same with roads. If you finish a road, it will score you an amount of points. Or if you close down any farm or field, if you have a meeple in a field, it'll count like farms. And if it's touching a city, it doesn't matter what city. You could have cities touching those fields from all over the board. It gets you points as well. Now, it's just really interesting because this is a game I've had for the past more than 6 months, because I got it right back when I got from Alaska, my trip to Alaska last Christmas, and I got it back right back when I got back to work And I never played it because the person I was with just didn't
They
care for it.
They didn't click with the games.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've had it for half a year now.
Yeah.
And we
just played it.
So what happens when we go to game night is we go early.
Yeah.
It starts at like 6, and we set up pretty early when we get there. And it's usually the stragglers that show up early as well. We try to include them. Then there wasn't anybody.
Yeah.
So we were looking around at their library at Eton over in Albuquerque as well as Houston. Not paid to say that. I just really like to support those dudes. And we were looking through their library, and we're like, oh, what should we play? What should we play? I'm excited. One thing I was thinking about was playing Seven Wonders Duel, because we're very versed in Seven Wonders Duel. And then I saw Carcassonne, and I realized you own that.
Haven't played it.
And I realized you hadn't had the chance to play it yet. So it was super cool to finally whip that out and play that. Not only that, but teaching, well, when I say teaching, refreshing you, because you had learned the game,
right,
but then not like applied it yourself. I owned it for a long, long time ago. And then when I finally played it, you beat me by 1 point. 1 point. And it was so good. And I was...
that was a good game. That was a good game. You know, funny thing is, I was in Alaska with my partner at the time, and we were visiting her family, and they love playing board games. So we would meet up every night when we were over, and we would play board games. One of the games they brought was Carcassonne.
Really?
We never played it. We played Oregon Trail instead. Have you played that one?
Oregon Trail, I have not played.
It's just the video game, board game version. It's the same thing, but
there's a really popular one out now called Oregon Trail.
Okay.
Like, and it's a zombie thing, so I always have to, when people say it, I always double check, because then I start talking about the wrong one, and I'm always wrong, so I always have to double check there. But talking about Carcassonne, so the thing is this is the game that brought meeples out into the limelight.
Oh yeah.
And you get 7 to play with. When you play a tile, it has to make sense with the other tiles. Like, if you're putting a road out, it has to connect to other roads. I'd say it's easy to do, but does involve some thinking. When you do, then you can put your meeple out maybe on the road as a highwayman, like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson.
Oh, yes.
Really bad joke. We're just going to...
Out there in the highway, doing their thing.
You know the Highwaymen?
I don't.
It's a country group.
Starring
Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson.
No. Yeah,
it's like every good old guy.
I knew about the Highwaymen. I didn't know it was them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I am not from here.
Fun fact, jokes are always better if you explain them out loud. Always. Anyway, so you put them out there. The thing is if you put that meeple out on the road or in a city or any spot, aside from the farmer, which is a whole other thing, play Carcassonne, you'll totally understand what we're saying. You don't get the meeple back until you have completed road or city or monastery. That's probably my favorite aspect of the game, is the risk of throwing someone out there and then not seeing them again for a very long time. Because there was twice for you and then the end of the game for me where we ran out of meeples.
No, I probably played like at least like a third of the whole game without having meeples on me. Until I finished, maybe it was like one of
You finished a city and you got it back.
Right.
But one thing with yours was when you did it, you threw out a lot of farmers. Farmers you lay down sideways on the board, and they just won't count until the end of the game. But they are pretty much long-term investments.
Right.
And you had thrown out of your 7, you threw out 3 farmers, and one of them. So again, the farmer only scores for every completed city in the grassland that touches. They put them down in the grassland, and then that grassland scores for every completed city. Yeah. You had one farmer, and then we just closed the little circle of road around him, and he was useless.
Completely useless.
It made me even saltier because you still won. Like that should be a move that just ends you in that game. But it's a classic. I like talking about it as if it came out yesterday. I do believe all games, it can be respected for their history, but where do they stack up today?
Right.
And Carcassonne is a good game, and I still think it holds up. I think one of the interesting things with it is I'm curious how expansions work for it.
Yeah, you were fascinated about some of the expansions.
So Eton has done this thing where they bought all the expansions. They don't buy a lot of expansions, but when they do, they went all out on Carcassonne. And most of them are like, okay, you can put a mayor out. Oh, I don't quite get that, but you can do this. The number 10 expansion, this game has been out for a very long time, but the number 10 expansion is Under the Big Top with a circus involved, and I admittedly just think that sounds really cool, and I'm dying to know what that plays like. But the thing is, for me, and I do classify this as a good game, I don't think it's a great game. I'm not sold on it myself for a couple things. Well, how about you?
I think it's. With all the other games we played, it's a very simple game. It's not as complicated. Because I was, trying to explain these instructions to my partner back in the day. It just seems so convoluted for whatever basic games we would play.
Sure.
So it wasn't appealing just reading the instructions. But once you start playing, you're like, oh, okay, this is really fun, really easy. But like I said, very simple. So I think with that same concept, with that same game mechanic, there is a lot that you can also do. While I was playing, I was thinking like, oh, what if this was actually like in an urban setting and there were more variables in, like, instead of having like just meeples for people, you have meeples for like trucks that are transporting things. So I think it's a very simple game that it's not that it's lacking, but you're playing it, you're like, oh, maybe like it could have something more to it. But I just think that's me as well, because the other thing,
it sounds like you are the kind of person who the expansions are made for,
right,
where you would want to go and get the second and the third and say, okay, what can I do with these that add to? Because I would bet there's some expansion out there that does what you're thinking trucks might do.
Yeah,
and I think that might be out there for you. Right. It is there for me. There's two. Well, they're both kind of the same issue. First off, we played 2-player.
Right.
We played 2-player. I would play Carcassonne again. If you pick up an expansion, I will totally. We still haven't played with the Abbot. I did explain the river. We haven't played the river. I played with the river once, and it's good. It's a good expansion. I do not agree with the person I was playing with that it should be thrown out right away. But it's like, now that you've played the river, I just showed you the tiles, and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, you have to connect all your tiles in a way that makes sense. So city has to connect to city, road has to connect to road, unless it's pointing out into nothingness. And there's these river pieces, so of course the river has to connect. And you find it just snakes. It just snakes itself, and that's fine. It adds a little bit more simplicity to, okay, this is what I have to work with.
Right.
I wouldn't play with more than 3, because I have. You talk about significant others. Way back in the day, I convinced one to go to a game night, and we whipped out 5-player Carcassonne. And there was a point she looked at me like, "Are we done yet?" Because it's, in theory, it should not be a longer game.
No,
because there's the same number of tiles.
Yeah, there's less tiles, but
there's just as many. You get less yourself, but
you get a lot of analysis paralysis.
It is maybe the biggest victim of analysis paralysis I think I've ever seen. Because you remember near the end of the game, you'd sit there like, "Oh, where do I put this? I don't know." And we had actually run out a lot of room.
Do you want to explain a little bit? Well, I mean,
for the new people,
yeah.
So analysis paralysis is a very common term. You may hear us say AP from now on. It's a very common board game term, and it just refers to those moments where you're frozen in the game, not sure what to do, and you're analyzing everything way past when you should. And you're sitting there, well, if I do this, and I do this, and I do this. So imagine a map made of tiles, just all sorts, and you get one more tile. Early on in the game, it's easy. Yeah. You just have to connect to one of like the 4 other tiles out there. But once there's like 20, 30 pieces on the board, moving it around and trying to find that ideal point that gets you the most points. I watch people lock up all the time when they play Carcassonne. And everyone understands, but even when you understand, there's a point where you break and you are just thinking, will you please put it down and let's move on with our lives. Like, you don't care if they win or lose. You just start to get tired of it. And so I would say, for the sake of your opinion of the game, try it with a large number and come back and tell me, you know, because it also comes down to who you play with.
Right.
I have a game I would love for you to play called Five Tribes. There are people who feel the exact same way. They get paralyzed. They don't like it. They don't like waiting around. And with Five Tribes, I run with the philosophy. You played Mancala?
Yeah.
It runs Mancala style. You pick up meeples and you drop them around Mancala ways, but it's not just 2 rows. It's a whole grid. If you haven't played Mancala, look it up. It's a children's game. I think from Africa. I could be wrong. On that.
Yeah, we played that when I was in 5th grade.
Yeah, it's super approachable and it's cute and it's fun and it's really great as where did board games come from.
Those little pebbles work real good to throw them at girls.
Well, we don't do that anymore.
No.
It explains maybe why we're single. But in Five Tribes, you're running them across a grid. And people will sit there for a long time figuring out where does this bunch of meeples go where I can end up with the most points. And I always tell people, especially when they're new, it's okay to get locked up a bit. But for the most part, if you see, because it's all colored meeples, if you see an idea, there's a bunch of white meeples, I can go get those with this. And you start to think, well, maybe it's not the most ideal. I usually tell people just go with it. If you don't necessarily care about having the highest score ever, it's easy to just get that satisfaction because maybe later you saw a better move, but you'll realize, hey, this was a good one. Make it happen. And Carcassonne doesn't really offer that sort of opportunity. You kind of need to look. You beat me by 1 point.
Right.
And you got locked up in AP a couple times. I definitely got caught up once or twice. But we're both reasonable with it. It takes one person, good people, smart people, to get locked up, and that game just freezes. And especially like when you look at 5-player, and you're not only trying to benefit you, but you saw there were points where like I was cutting you off. I realized you weren't going to be. If I kept adding to your castle, I'm giving you some points, but you're not going to finish that castle. And so that take that as well as here benefit myself. It adds so much more to a very simple game. Like you said, it's a simple concept and it's executing it. I would argue in its creation, chess is maybe not super simple, but simple enough. It's the execution of it as you play it and the strategy that builds. And Carcassonne has a little bit of that. It also, this one's not a huge one for me. The luck factor of drawing tiles. I drew 3 monasteries during the game. I put 2 out. And then I needed the other one to win, and I didn't have a meeple. Whereas you drew monasteries almost always when it was just perfectly suitable for you. And that's the luck. That's the luck. I'm not going to be the guy that tells you every game needs to be 100% strategy.
No, and it just makes a game fun, I think, as well. It's just like, and it gives you the opportunity to say, like, definitely, maybe next time I'll get a better piece when I play it. Yeah, that's really neat. So
I would say if you are new to board games and you kind of want to see where the big boom of board games started.
Right.
We talked about Ticket to Ride last episode, that pandemic, and Carcassonne is one of them. Carcassonne is definitely one of the granddaddies of the current game generation, and I could recommend it in that sense. But I do feel there are games that are better. Sometime I'm going to play Isle of Skye with you.
Okay.
That is Carcassonne, but everybody has their own kingdom. You're building your own little one, and you have to bid on tiles. And it gets it's so much more fun for me. That. I sold when I got Isle of Skye. I sold my Carcassonne.
Nice.
But I'm not going to tell you Carcassonne is a bad game.
It's a game you should it wouldn't be bad to have it on your shelf.
No. You will not regret having it on your shelf. You may tire of it. But then again, if you're an expansion person, if you buy tall, less games, but more expansions, more depth to them, then I think Carcassonne may actually be a really good fit for you.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But
thumbs up, definitely. It's not a bad game.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to the middle. I just feel
one up, one down.
I'm going to give it a straight, just solid, right down the middle. But it's just that it's been outdated, and we'll come back to that in a little bit here, because I'm going to talk about more bidding in the world of High Society. High Society by Reiner Knizia, reprinted by Osprey Games. This is
Reprint the game.
Reprint the game. This is an excellent... As we enter this big age of board games, a lot of people think this is when the best games are being made. It's not entirely true. What's happening is there's a lot of great games coming out, but there are even more old games that are being reprinted, remastered. If you're really hardcore into board games, there's a game called Brass. It is the gamer's game, and they just reprinted that ancient, ugly game into these gorgeous sides of Britain or whatever, and they look great. With High Society, this is made by Reiner Knizia, a doctor who gave up I think professor life. I'm not too familiar with his life, but he went to go make board games, and he's made over 800 games.
I thought that was exaggeration.
No, he has made like 800 games. He has made tons. And to quote Shut Up, Sit Down, he's made 800 games, which literally some of them are games. Because when you make 800 games, you are not going to make 800 masterpieces, but you will make some that shine. And he really excels with bidding games. High Society is his lightest one. When it first came out, it was a weird, I don't want to say, modern art style, Andy Warhol-esque mess. It was ugly. It was like if 1978 had MS Paint. It was awful. And then a friend of mine has High Society in the next reprint where it was like a bland, rich Western game. And it's so boring looking. It's Carcassonne is more visually captivating.
I'm worried. How do you feel about Andy Warhol?
Oh, I like Andy Warhol.
I don't.
I'm not crazy. I don't know much about him, but yeah.
He is a guy.
He is a guy. Okay, see, we have found our common ground. But with the latest version of High Society, they hired an artist named Lady Medusa, and she went all out.
Wow.
In the game of High Society, everybody has a hand of cards that represent different money values, ranging from 1,000 francs to 25,000 francs. And there's a larger deck of cards that represent the points. Really bougie things you get to do. Maybe you hit the casino, or have champagne, or Bijou. They have all the she went all out with all the names and the fanciness. And it's gorgeous, and it's so indulgent. What you do is when the big card comes out and it says champagne for 2 points. The points range from 1 to 10. There's some negative cards, and you bid. All you do is whoever pulled the card over plays a card. It says maybe 12,000 francs. Then it's up to Jair here. He's got to up that or pass. Everyone knows how bidding works.
Right.
But you also can't make change. Whatever card you laid out there is what you're offering. And then if you win the bid, that card, let's say I put down my 12, and then my second I threw a 3 in there to make it a 15 total, and everybody else passed. I discard all the cards I bid, and they're out of the game. So now my hand is smaller.
Right.
I get that card, I have some points, but then we draw again. And we keep going until a blue card shows up. There's regular cards and there's blue cards. And the blue cards are doublers, or there's one that halves your score. And the negative card bids are great because everyone's throwing money out until they don't want, until you're not willing to bid anymore. You get your money back, you get the card, but everyone else who bid pays off. And it's hard. I feel like I just explained it, and somebody listening, their head may be spinning. You're going to sit down, you're going to watch the cards being played, and you're going to start bidding. You're like, oh, wait, I totally understand this. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
But you play these blue cards, and there's 4 of them in the deck. Once the 4th blue card shows up, the game is over. You don't bid on that one, it's over. But that part of the game makes it so compelling because in other games, you'll shuffle your game-ending cards on the bottom. We played Ethnos once. I'm not going to go into what Ethnos is, but there are dragons in the game. They dictate when the game ends.
Right.
And you shuffle them in the bottom half so you can get through. In High Society, the deck is only I think 20 cards, and you shuffle all 4 in there, and they could be the top 4 and end it. It's never happened. Our last blue card was in the bottom 3 cards, and that's the highest it's ever been for me. It's almost always in the bottom. But you don't know. And because of that, you don't know whether you want to burn money early, burn money late. When
that
is it right?
That was my downfall. It was mostly because first time playing it, I did not get the instructions right. So I needed to have at least some money because whoever had the least amount of money was basically eliminated from.
Yeah, so you get a whole bunch of points.
Game.
How many? You had like 40 points or so by the end of this. You had so many.
I got 2 doublers. I had 2 doublers, and then I got a half. I got like minus 5.
Yeah, you had a minus 5, but you were still running about like 40 points, which is a huge score in this game. But it's a huge score because at the end of the game, remember those cards you have in your hand, the francs. Whoever has the least number of francs is immediately eliminated.
Yep.
It's 3 to 5 players. In our case, Jair was eliminated, and it came down to me and the other guy. And
I forget his name.
It does escape me as well. And he just had more points than me. Andy Warhol. He came in and he figured it out. He kind of figured out how we were bidding. He got in our heads and was just not so much like he was messing with us, but he could read what we were going to do. And I could tell halfway through, you figured this out, and I am quite upset about this. So this game offers... When is the good time to bid? Because the first card we played, I believe, was a 9. There's only one copy of each card. So a 9 comes out. That's a big deal. And I bid high. And then I made some dumb mistakes, and I bid really high on 1s and 2s. And after I was done, I was like, I get caught up. I'm awful at these games.
So it's a game that you have to I think you don't even have to like worry too much about your cards as much as you have to be sure to see what other people are playing, because then you know how much money they have left. So it's a lot of card reading or like hand reading, a lot of like...
Because when people finish and they pay their cards, they put them face down, so you can't read everybody's discard pile.
Right.
And you just have to remember, he spent his 25. That's right. He did that. It's the great thing with that game is that you don't see... It's just that when is it good? If you are a gambler, this is a great game to gamble with because you have to count. You have to see, can you upbid people? There was 2 times in that game where I just threw one card in. One time it didn't work, and the other time it did, where I was like, if I can get them to raise their money one more time, then I can get them to waste cards on a card I don't want, and they spent their money. I think, because you wasted like 4 cards on a bid, and I was like, good. And the second time I went to go do that, I kind of realized no one else could do it, and I was like, oh, crud. And I ended up spending way more. And great thing with Reiner games, they're games you make mistakes. You screw up and you look up like, oh no. It's excellent. So you played it one time.
Yeah.
We'll be playing it again for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely, what's your feeling on it overall?
So I don't think I've played any other bidding game.
This is your first auction.
This is first auction game, which I was worried at first because I don't know, I don't know how I feel about like auctioning and like money handling. I'm terrible with my own finances, so
I feel you as I stare upon my wall of an amazing board gameness. Oh God, it hurts to look at when I think about money. Anyway,
but I did really enjoy it. It's a game that you can engage with the players a lot. You're just like looking at each other like, oh, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And we played it with 3 people. How many?
It goes 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
I played with 5. The best thing is it doesn't change much.
Yeah.
Your hands are usually bigger because you're not winning as often, but it's really amazing to see how people think it through. And like we said, I've played this 8 times, 9 times. I have yet to win. I cannot win this game because I always make early stupid decisions and I get caught up in it.
Right.
Which is funny because another one of his games, currently my favorite Reiner Knizia game, Modern Art, which I'm excited to play. It's a much more involved auction game. It's messy because there's different types of auctions. There's the blind, where there's just the open auction, and that's the good old, I'll take 8, okay, I'll take 9, 10, then. There's one where you go around the circle. I'll start the bid at 6. The next person gets one chance to up it, and then if they say 7, you can just say 8 and take it. And then you're the last person, and you get the... And there's one where I make an offer, 8,000, and I point to the next person, and they say yes or no. And if they say no, we move on to the next one. So the first person has... And they're all so different. But it's more involved. There's no elimination. and the money is more flowy. Like there's a lot more of it rather than a restricted hand. They're the same game and very different all at once. They're both solely based on bidding. They both have a mechanic where something shows up to end the game. But whereas one is a tight, risk-based game, the other one is a sloppy, laugh-inducing game with very gorgeous art. No Andy Warhol, don't worry. But there's some intense stuff. So I'm excited for you to try that out.
Yeah.
But I do feel High Society... If you were to tell me High Society is so much better than modern art, if anybody did, I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah. It's all the differences are in such a way that you can like one and not the other.
Could you say it's more approachable? It's a little easier to set up. It's bring it out.
It's more approachable in the fact that the game ends in 20 minutes.
Right,
It's super short, and whereas modern art is more involved, it's not hard by any stretch. The hardest thing is just remembering what all the bids do, and on the back of the manual you just lay it out there so everybody can see that. But High Society is one of my favorite light games. I'm looking through my light games, and I've got Onitama, and I've got The Mind, which we were supposed to talk about this week, and we just, we could, but we're going to save it again for when we have a nice fresh playthrough, because it's great. But High Society is, of my light games, easily in my top 5, maybe in my top 3. If you like board games and you're curious about the world of auction, I don't see a better game to start you on auctioning. You'll notice what makes it unique, but, man, every time you think you make the right move and the next card comes out and you're just, I am the dumbest person on the planet, and you laugh, and it's excellent. Yep. So big shiny thumbs up from me.
Now, I'm not sure how I feel about the bidding. Since, like I said, it's the first time I've played a bidding game. So I would definitely want to play other bidding games to see how it compares. I would say I would have it not straight up all the way up, thumbs up, because I did have fun playing it. I did have it was a grand old time, but I want to see more of the bidding world to give it a second. So
a light medium.
I will definitely play other games. Yeah, I would definitely play it again because I did not understand the instructions at first. Now that I know what to do. So
what I think I would want to do is I want to break out modern art.
Yeah.
Or we talked about Isle of Skye, but I feel like modern art, you get a more feeling of what the staple of auctioning is, and then we'd probably whip out High Society again and see how you feel, because I'm definitely curious. Even if you come out, I love opposite.
A lot of that thumbs up I'm giving is mostly just because of the art. I am a sucker for Art Nouveau. And Jesus Christ, this is just beautiful.
That's right. That is the term for it. If you know of Art Nouveau, this is some of the best.
Yeah.
The best thing is I've posted this on Instagram. We have an Instagram, by the way, the Dungeon Boys. I've put it on my private one before, and I get messages from other artists that I know, coworkers we have that are artists, and they're like, "Oh my God, I saw the game you played. Beautiful. I know that artist."
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's awesome.
They're like, I know, it's like Medusa. And she's fantastic.
Dollmaker.
Yeah, and she is fantastic. And they're like, oh my God, I did not know she made a game. I was like, yes, she did. Mm-hmm. And that art has sold so many people. Our Scythe friend, Evan, the minute we finished playing, he's like, I need that. He likes big games. He doesn't like light games. He doesn't like party games. He likes big, thick games, and he got High Society. He loves it so much. So
do you think maybe, I'm pretty sure like the art itself has brought this game a little bit more out there. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it used to be a weird...
It used to be kind of a cult game. People who really like the style of the game play will like it, but it's going to be a little dull. Mm-hmm. And the people who pick up these Knizia games, I think, are just starting to figure that out. And they're like, why not make it pretty? This isn't, for the hard board game people, this is not like Tigris and Euphrates. This is not Samurai, which are elegant games in their own right, but they look more like standard old board games. High Society doesn't need to. Modern art's cheating. It's all about collecting modern art. So of course the art's great. But, they don't need to look like a standard board game. They can be extravagant, and that's what this is. It's fantastic on that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're running a little more on time. It's okay. But we're going to dive into Scythe now.
Ooh. Oh, boy.
And the nice thing is we aren't going to spend too much time talking about Scythe. If you follow us, you understand what the game is.
Just a little update.
And we can't spoil too... Well, there wasn't much necessarily to spoil. No. We're not going to talk about... I'm going to mention it being a campaign chapter 2. It's set up differently than before.
Yep.
And
Wow.
very
different.
different. It was so much fun because the first game just says, start the game. Add these 2 things. I was like, okay, those are kind of cool, but play Scythe. It was chapter 1. I was forgiving. I was like, I hope chapter 2 ups it a little bit. And it did. It didn't necessarily feel like a story upgrade, but gameplay was like, go ahead. Do this, do this, do this. As I'm reading, everybody's like, wait, are you kidding me? Like, I do that?
It basically
really?
bumped everyone up.
Oh my gosh. Well, the funny thing is we thought that would speed us up, but I think a mixture of we took for granted how fast the game was going to go.
And we added one person.
We now have a full 7-player game of Scythe,
God.
which is maybe insane, but, we're a quarter of the way through the campaign already. Why not? As the kids these days say, YOLO. It's deal with it. No, it's.
I'm pretty sure they say Fortnite now.
Fortnite.
Is that the new word?
That is the new word. And oh my gosh. So what was, without throwing out any spoilers, what was your experience in this game?
Wow. So as you might remember from last episode, we voted to have the game go into war.
That's right. That's not a spoiler. That is what we did. Yep.
That is what everyone was about. It was all about war and fighting because you actually had some of your basically victory points held hostage by other players. You had to do combat. You had to fight to get those points because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get as many starts up there. It was an all-out brawl, a battle royale, as they say. So it was really fun. I think one of my character's perks, like one of my faction perks, just made fighting so much fun. Because whenever someone would fight me, I would have to take some of their combat cards, which is what helps people fight in any
you were never short
event.
Of them.
No.
You were never short, but it was.
I lost a couple of times. People would beat me, but that would bring an edge to the event of a battle. That I think you didn't get to choose your building.
You didn't get to choose your battles, but you got to choose your victories.
Yes,
because you were never short of these cards, and. Well, I don't know if you actually ever used them, but you made a marching band of 3 mechs surrounded my meeples. So if anybody attacked it, they were gonna suffer. But you were if you ever decided to attack, they were in trouble.
Yep.
That was so cool.
And I definitely brought an edge to. I mean, I did way better than last time. Which I'm really proud of. But I'm really proud of that I didn't know if I mentioned it on last episode, but I am an agent of chaos. I don't care about winning. I just care about having fun. And by fun, I mean messing everyone else's plans by being completely a wild card. And I don't know if it'll help. I don't know if it'll be bad.
I still say you're not a full wild card. A full wild card has no value to their own gameplay, and you still have means of trying to win, and that's what gets No. You are controlled chaos in that sense, and that's what's great is you do have plans. I know because I ruined them at one point.
God.
So he was moving around, and he put his leader right next to my home base, and he just left him there, and I kept looking at it. And this is a very battle-centric game.
Yep.
And there was one point where you had lost. You wager power when you go into battle. You wager how much you're willing to give, and that determines the winner. And he had wagered so much, I think you had made 2 or less, and I had a large amount. I was like, even with your cards, I can do this. And it felt like you had forgotten about them, so I just hopped over, and you're like, wait, no, what are you doing? And you yell at me, and I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. But see, last time you did that with our friend Thunder, and he never recovered. But I feel like even though you did that to me, I feel like I was like, all right. I mean,
when I took his spot, I took so many resources.
Right.
I think had a food there. No, that wasn't even that part. It was a different piece.
Yeah.
But it was just your guy hanging out there. You had planned to move him, move your leader the next turn to go accomplish something, and I just took that opportunity away from you. And
which had happened on the next turn anyways, but that was all right.
Oh my goodness. Right. It was
and everyone else also, everyone had victory points up in the tally. Like everyone did really, really good. Even Greg, like he started out.
Greg learned the game right beforehand. That's not a recommended for the campaign. You're supposed to play a couple times, and he had showed interest. And I told people, if you are willing to give it all, and like I said, that's why you're not a true Chaos player, because I don't like playing with true Chaos players. They're not fun. Controlled Chaos, like, I'm going to do my thing, but I'll get wacky with it. Yeah. That's fine. But Greg has the passion, and I was like, okay, here's the watch it played of the playthrough of Scythe, of how to learn. Go do that, and we'll meet up. And he learned about it. He had a couple questions here and there. He made some really fun mistakes. He just he spread all of his guys out really early, and then we all just rained down on him, and we all just got free victory stars for it. I mean, it was 7 players, right? But even with that, the stars on the victory track, because again, stars are the achievements, just polluted the field. The battles in this game were great. It was incredible. Really I ended up winning. Yeah, but it was close. It was really close. I won by $7.
There was at least 2 other people that could have won on that round.
Everybody was talking about, like, okay guys, I'm set to win. So if you remember talking, Evan, who is running the Nordic, and Isaiah, who's running the Albion, they spent a lot of time whispering to each other. And they were trying to politic and make room. Now, granted, they were more trying... Evan was trying to figure out all the cool stuff he wanted to do, and Isaiah wanted to get into the factory. Again, getting to the center of the board gives you other playing options, a really good advantage, and Evan had a good control of that for the most of the game. He had plopped down a whole bunch of figures there, and we're like, I don't know if I... And he always kept good power. Evan was the scariest person to play against. He always had a good amount of power, and you weren't sure if he was willing to spend it. As much as that guy isn't a wargamer guy, he is a Euro guy, he was prepared, and I loved that. Now, I never fought him. I just could not risk it. I'm very wild to my stuff, and I'd gas out, and I didn't want to be on the moment of gassing out against him. It was very scary. But the 2 of them it got me so nervous. And Thunder started using the Shogunate well, and he laid down traps, and I could have fought him. There was a couple times I could have fought him, and I just didn't want to spring a trap.
Are nasty.
Oh, any one of there was 2 of them that if you threw out would mess me up completely, and I could not afford it. Yeah. But yeah, I ended up winning with $69. But that was really cool. You know, I don't know what the future holds. That's true. I did peek at the title of the 3rd one. I just happened to. We are in for a treat. We are in for such a good time. However, the main component added to that game...
The mech mods?
No, I don't want to spoil anything. But the main... There was I'm making symbols to Jair, but there was a one...
It's in the floor again.
Because the idea is, in the box, there's all these sorts of components. There's boxes to open up. I think we're going to be opening up a box soon. But we haven't done that yet. We just did some punch board. One of the things we punched out today, I love that. And where it dictates the game in such a way that if you played Scythe a bunch, you want to mix it up, I will use that again. Oh, yeah. And that is just a module. I'm going to use it again. And, I did look at what the peace side was. It's a totally different game. There were punch outs we didn't use for it. But it was super cool. Like, it was just the opposite way to play it. And it was super gentle, but passive. There's a passive-aggressive thing where if you mess with each other is a huge penalty. It's so cool.
It just shows how much of a tight game this is. It's just like so versatile and so many factors, but everything works perfectly. You could change certain things, but it still works as a very expansive game that you could play regular Scythe, but with this expansion, it just makes it a completely different game.
And when you open up the book, it says, here's the campaign. You're about to go on an amazing journey. If you don't give a crap about the journey, go to this page. Yeah. It'll tell you, you open up all the boxes, and it'll tell you what they do. Because they're not just pieces for the campaign. You can use them again in other games. And I heard people say, yeah, we're going to use these again. I was like, will I want to? Yeah, no. I don't know if I will use that component for people's first time. Yeah. But if I was to bust out with these guys, like, hey, let's just play another 5-player game. Let's use this side of this component. And it's like, oh god,
yeah, look, there's so many variables that changes the game. I love it.
That part, that one component. Once I realized how much it was changing everything, the rest of the game, like how we set up and everything, I don't need that. It's fine. But that alone just set up the game for me in such a way I was so happy. And I think that is a great way for Scythe to wrap up, is just everything we're learning. And like I said, I am 90% sure we're opening a box in the next one. Nice. So I think we're just going to be able to tell you less and less about these games. Awesome. But we did make some permanent adjustments. We started spending wealth, which was slightly spoiled if you pay attention in the podcast. But I don't know what exactly lies ahead, but it's going to be exciting. It's just like, I'm so excited. I think we're going to come back.
Leveling up.
And next time we're just going to be making sounds like as soon as it starts. We're going to
be so excited, yeah.
But yeah, Scythe has been fantastic.
Yeah. An analogy I want to throw out there, it's kind of, it kind of feels, so the original Legend of Zelda game, you would go through the campaign of it, you just play it, beat it. But if you typed in your name instead of whatever name you would choose, you would type Zelda, it would give a second, completely new, fresh campaign.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
So, I feel like with this Scythe way it's playing, every day it's like getting a new, different campaign of how to play the game, a fresh take on Scythe. Every day we play it, which, I don't know, it might end up being like my favorite board game at the end of those eight days.
I'm actually starting to worry that will happen to me as well, not in a bad way. But like with Pandemic Legacy, I've not played it, but anybody who has, feel free to call me out on this. It's a legacy game. You're going to tear up cards, you're going to put stickers on the board. You can only play so many times, and then you're done with it. Now, I've heard it's absolutely incredible, and I have no hate towards it. I want to play it so bad. What makes it different, though, is, every game will be different, very much like today when we set up, Scythe, but they're not ways to play it in the future. They enhanced how you played it in that game. And it'll affect in your next one. But when you're done, you have a box that's just empty and done and fulfilled. This is just kind of like a story that just leaves you with little gifts at the end. It's like, okay, so thank you for playing. Next time, when you're done, if you want to bust that piece out again, you're welcome to.
New Game Plus.
New Game Plus kind of a feel. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's a New Game Plus. We're going to have all these toys to play around with when we're done. Awesome. And like we haven't played with the Wind Gambit.
No,
we'll get to it. But it's really great that that's just not necessary, and I'm really, really happy with that. Awesome. So thank you again, Stonemeyer. Really love all of that. Okay, all right. Well, cool.
Yeah.
You hear that, Jair?
I do.
It's about that time again for tea time. Now, I've got a really hot now, but I'm really excited for this one. This one's especially for you. You were sipping all through it to the last one. What were you thinking?
This is good. I mean, it's really hard to go wrong with any kind of tea.
This is true.
But let's see.
It's going to be a little burny. Yeah. Sip.
Can feel the socialism.
Oh, that was a terrible joke. All right, guys, this is Dungeon Boy featuring me.
I don't know. It's kind of fruity. You got a fruity thing kind of there. I would say a little like raspberry to it, but I don't know. But it's definitely sweet. It's really hard to me to
It's sweeter than I remember the last time I had it. I did not remember it being as sweet as it is. This is also a black tea. Oh. I will say that, because a lot of the Celestial brand is caffeine-free, but they can't really hold back with that black tea.
So like honeysuckle, or I don't know.
Honeysuckle.
I don't know. Like, I'm just throwing words.
No, that's fair. That's fair. No. That's what the flavor is. It's got to be what reaches out to you.
Yeah, but I would go with raspberry, something raspberry-ish.
I can see where you get that taste from.
But what do you got?
Let's see here.
Ooh.
With, that's the nutritional facts. Let's see. I like to call this, because it's what's called, Sweet Harvest Pumpkin.
Oh, wow.
Just like a perfectly baked pumpkin pie, this delicious autumnal blend evokes the flavor of a brisk fall day. Featuring rich black tea, harvest fresh pumpkin flavor, and traditional spices like cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, plus a touch of sweetness. This festive blend is a delicious little slice of harvest time. So I chose this one because last time you were talking about how roast aroma is very wintry.
Yeah, it is.
And nothing like that. I'm paraphrasing Jair here. None of that like fall pumpkin crap. And I was like, well, I know what next week's tea is. It's my pumpkin blend. But yeah, I can see where you're getting that, where the sweetness distorts the pumpkin into kind of a raspberry flavor. Yeah. It sounds like a real stretch.
I mean, raspberry, pumpkin, pretty similar, right?
No. No, it's not at all. But no, it's absolutely, it's very pleasant.
Oh, yeah.
Now that it's actually become bearable and not searing the tongue. And no, it's a good blend of. I like the pumpkin taste. I can taste it. It's more the smell. I can smell pumpkin.
I think the last time's tea, when it got lukewarm, it was a little harder to drink. This one, when it's not blistering hot, still very good to drink. Still very flavorful.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like it cold, but right when it was like past hot, nowhere, like right above lukewarm, it's full of flavor right at that point. I
so what's the name? Harvest Time?
Sweet Harvest Pumpkin.
Sweet Harvest Pumpkin.
And okay, so you ever see Top Gear?
Yes.
You know how they have the big board of cool stuff? I always wanted to host a show about video games or something where you put the games not so much on a rating system, but where on that list do they belong.
Yeah.
So this list is 2 teas long. Does this go above or below roast aroma?
It definitely goes above roast aroma.
Really?
Yeah, it does for me. Because, like I said, roast aroma has a great wintry flavor that reminds me of hot cocoa. But when it gets cold, it's not very good.
Fair. Okay.
It's drinkable. It's not very good. But this one, good all throughout.
All throughout. Sure. And it is, I think, honestly, for me, I got to put it with roast aroma. They both serve different purposes.
Yes.
But I like the black tea. I love the black tea taste in this, and that's if this was a caffeine-free like roast aroma, I wouldn't like it.
Oh,
but the black tea for me saves it, and so I'm gonna give it. I'll edge it ever so slightly above roast aroma, only because this is the good stuff.
Yeah, let's start that list going.
Okay, you're starting that list?
Yeah.
Well, you do that.
On my $1,000 iPad here.
Your $1,000 iPad. Next up, while he's doing that, let's talk about the upgrades to the game. Now, I'm going to warn you, spoiler ahead of time. Unfortunately, this was not a very productive week.
Nope.
A lot of time that I would have spent working on it, I was working with a lot of jiu-jitsu stuff, which is not going to be nearly as common as it was then. But also with the making of this podcast.
Right.
We're on every major platform. If there's an app you want us on, we can get it. I'm 99% sure. It's just they have to send the RSS feed.
Right.
But I'm on Pocket Cast, which is my preferred use of it. But we had Spotify.
Yeah.
Spotify. I don't have Spotify, but it was so silky smooth getting on there. Stitcher was a little bit of a bump, but it wasn't too bad. And SoundCloud and Spotify, I sneezed and they were on there. YouTube, we have to talk. Not thrilled about you.
I think everyone has to talk with YouTube.
I might upload the YouTube episodes myself just because the process compressed it a second time.
Yep.
And you can't hear Jair. You cannot hear Jair. You can barely understand what I'm saying. It is a mumbly mess. Also, we experimented with the depth of the microphone between now and the beginning and tea time, so maybe there'll be an audio dip in there.
We're here learning with.
We are learning here at the dungeon.
And you'll learn too.
You will learn. But in the process, what we did come down to is we started working on 2 different things.
Yeah.
One, I want to start working on the cards of the kids, and what I'm also going to keep going into summer camp as if you're familiar with what it is. This is a project we're working on together.
Yep.
And we were separated for most of this week, I think. And we just didn't get a lot of chance to
together at all.
Yeah. When we work together is when we can get the most accomplished. And when not, it's more
me on that. It's not so much egocentric. It's my project that I'm having Jair work with. So unless he's messaging me ideas, it's going to be more of my own thing. With this, with the kids, I tried to figure out what all is going to be on the card. And in doing so, I came up with some interesting ideas. If the locations, we talked about how they have dice.
Right.
And there's only so many dice to grab on certain spots. Maybe the outdoor theater has 1 outdoor dice and 2 art dice or something. Right. And there's 3 spaces. The thing is at the moment, I'm thinking before the turn goes, all those dice are rolled, and they just, whatever face they come up with, that's what gets put in those spots. The thing is, it's very unlikely that those will all be ideal for you. They may be off by 1 or 2 spots. And if that's the case, that's okay. You get little Timmy. Timmy goes to the theater, and he really wants his card has a red and a purple, which is nerd stuff and art stuff. He's not an outdoorsy kid. I don't know why he's at camp. But he goes to the auditorium, and he gets himself a purple 4.
Right.
And that's not a 6. He wants a 6. Basically, what this can do now is, we were talking about a campfire, an opportunity to exchange things, and
in between rounds.
And so what I'm thinking of is, along with some locations maybe having some modifiers themselves, one thing I'm curious about is in this, if we have another set of economy. There's the economy of the dice, your score, which are the stars, little golden stars, nothing special on that. But the other economy being between the counselors themselves. If each person has a s'more ingredient, let's say I have graham cracker and Jair has marshmallow, and it's a 2-player game. That's all we're going to have. But if we do that, to make a s'more, I only need 1 graham cracker in this situation. In a 4 or 5 player game, there'll be a top cracker and a bottom cracker. I have my cracker. I can get that out. But to get that marshmallow, I'm going to need to offer exchanges to him. And if I say, hey, if you will take this graham cracker, I can up or down a pip on my dice. So if he accepts the marshmallow, which he wants, because getting full sets of s'mores gives him points, we'll get to worrying about the economy and where all the points go. But he's like, ooh, I want that. There's no penalty for me having marshmallows. That's great. I will take this marshmallow, and you can up one of your dice up by 1. And so we can take Timmy's purple 5, up it to a 6, and hey, look, there he is. And so that just offers, I'm thinking, a fun exchange. I'm trying to make, amongst all the challenges in the game, the hardest one I'm feeling right now is the economy.
Right.
It's the economy of the economy is the wrong word. The exchange market. Where can we get people to want to trade? What can we do to incentivize? If you can get all your stuff, if I can get Timmy a purple 6 and a red 1, and let's just pretend for this instance you only get 1 kid, you'll have multiple, but you have everything filled out, and you're fine.
Yeah, so you don't really have to trade.
You don't have to trade. You're fine. You get to look over everybody who want to give you things like, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. You can be that guy if you like, but you don't have to hand out your ingredients. And that's, I think, I'm going to try that out and see what that works. I'm still shooting to have a messy, horrible, playable version of this game by October. I'm actually still focused on trying to get that to happen. We did talk, however, about weeks. The weeks in the game are the rounds.
Rounds, yeah.
And I was thinking, right now, the kids' cards have dice on them. They all will have dice. But they will range between 1 and maybe 3 dice. We talked about them getting to go to 2 different spots on the map. I don't see how, with 2 chances to move, how you're going to get a 3 person to go up. Maybe we do bring down the number of dice down to 2, 1 or 2 dice. But the other thought is that instead, what you can do is extend the weeks. Well, because currently we have it out for 5 weeks. 5 rounds, getting kids, introducing them. Instead, if we get it down to 3 rounds 3 weeks of play.
But the rounds themselves are a little bit heftier.
A little heftier. The weeks are a little longer, like 3 or 4 movements. So you can get all 3 dice and maybe 1 manipulation of the dice on a different spot, something like that. That could be an option. But it could also be, so that option's there. But I'm curious where this will play into as far as game time. Right. I want this to be an hour and a half. I do not want it to hit 2 hours. I will not be happy at where the game is. If the game transforms into something else that requires a 2-hour game, if it works, it's fine. Where it stands right now, I do not see this game being fun for 2 hours.
How do you feel? I mean, they are weeks, so thematically, I feel like what do you think about it being like each week is a round, but it's divided in 7 days? Would that be too much?
I think that gives them too much opportunity, and it's more when we
7
start
days
testing,
to do whatever you need to do in a week.
The great thing is once the prototype's out, then we can just mess with it.
Right.
We can say, okay, we played with 3 weeks and 4 turns a week. Mm-hmm. We can do all these things. We can
maybe
mess around
it's just
with
5, and the weekends are just the.
And that's the thing is I don't know. And once we have it out, but this really emphasized me the importance of play testing for the sake of development. For me, I was looking at play testing as more of, am I right?
Right.
Is this how I want to go with it? And now it's more, a lot of my ideas can only go so far because a factor I can't truly look at is the human experience, the human element. What do people like most about the game? I like the idea of drafting, but I like the idea of it because I've not done it yet. But I feel drafting these kids is going to be my favorite part. Mm-hmm. Someone else is going to say, having a suffocating, camp board where I can only do so much is, really thrilling. There's some, maybe they're going to say it's really awful. I'm praising myself way too hard for a game that's not even done. But I need to see how people affect the game because that's where the trading comes in. How do we get people to trade? If the game doesn't require it, if they are set up in a way it doesn't require it, or it's not fun, or the initiative isn't enough, like the making those s'mores is not good enough for you, then if you look at it like, I could use this, but I'm actually better off just not taking this from you. I'm not going to trade, and I fear that a lot in this because I want that to be an aspect of the game if it can be, and I think it helps with the manipulation of odds. A game I want you to play is called Favor the Pharaoh. You haven't played that one, right? Mm-hmm. It's a bunch of dice chucking and manipulating your odds. And I think we could learn from that. I love the game because it looks like it's going to be an hour and a half game that's super involved. And then once it's laid out, you're like, this is just super Yahtzee. It's just, you're going to, by the end, you're going to be throwing 12 dice of 5 different colors and, I activate this ability and I have this ability and this dice turns over and I get a new dice and it's crazy good stuff. Yeah. But that's where I'm at with that. Cool. What do you feel on that?
No, I'm excited to start working on it. I'm excited to get, all of this down, like you said, by October, have at least a prototype so we can play with that. So like you say, for example, have 12 dice out there and you're just building combos off from your abilities from the kits or from the counselors or whatever. So I think, I'm not sure how this would, be eventually done, but make it so that, at first, kind of like a slow ascension into the craziness of having 12 dice out there. But you maybe start with a couple, and then eventually you do have a huge amount of combos. So it's like combos that stack up on each other as you go along into the game. And by the end of it, maybe not everyone, but at least someone has a huge collection of dice that can be played in so many different ways if you play the game right, if you play the game in a way that just makes you a beast. Mm-hmm. Maybe not necessarily make it so that every game has to end up like that, but maybe someone that's really good at the game can do that and make it so that it's like, I absolutely destroyed you with my combo. And that is an open possibility. And when I'm not remotely ready to say that will happen. Yeah. But more it's available and then see how it's accepted. Right. Because a lot of games with blowout winners people don't like, but you can do it right. Right.
the one thing I was looking at is getting prepared to make this game.
Mm-hmm.
I currently have 4 locations for all 5 different things. That's 20 different locations. I don't know how many cards are going to be involved. I'm thinking of just purchasing a deck of cards, getting a bunch of printer paper, and then just taping kids onto the front with dice requirements. Investing, now every good game developer is cringing when I say this one, because you should not invest in your prototype. It should all be paper and all that nonsense. But I'm going to go talk to Ed and get a bunch of those tiny dice.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to get the colors I'm looking for, basic colors, which shouldn't be too expensive.
And
then, at that point, I think we'll have most of the components, and it should be enough for it. And we're going to see. We're going to see, because I really want that to work out.
And we do have the ability to. We know the people. We know the places where we can take this game too.
Yes.
I mean, we have Etten. We have our coworkers that although they
can be
super into board games, but they can definitely be helpful in saying like, oh, and in other aspects too. And it's like they can help with just to build the art. So we just have very, very talented people all around us, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, we're
and
very
just people that are really into board games in general. So that would be very helpful. So this is gonna be an endeavor, but I feel like we have a lot of tools that will definitely help us get us going.
Now, we have opened up the opportunity for people to input, send messages, things like that, read some mail, and we're so popular that we have none. But fun thing that happened this week is we both came up with more games.
Yeah.
We're going to keep the focus on summer camp.
For sure.
Unless something crazy happens, the summer camp is the main focus of Dungeon Boys' Part 2. But I thought it'd be fun to close out this with elevator pitches.
Yeah.
We are going to pitch to you really quickly the ideas of our games. Jair,
okay.
Tell me about your game. What inspired it?
Well, I am in love with the Game Boy, I guess Nintendo franchise Advanced Wars. I love that game. It's so fun. It's just a tactical game, kind of like Fire Emblem. You're just in a board, moving your units and soldiers around to fight the other army. So I was thinking, like, is there a board game version of this? Is there a board game analog to what Advanced Wars is? And I mean, you mentioned Warhammer.
I will say in that the way you were describing that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Warhammer still stood as far as a full analog, no.
But yeah, exactly. But simply put, I want to make it into a very basic game. 4 pieces. That's as many pieces that any player has. You have your general, like your main character. You have 2 infantry pieces, and you have a special unit that could be either a tank, a plane, a spec ops, something like a special unit that does something special, or just something different, cool, and creative, like the Advanced Wars games are. And then depending on what general you pick, that special unit is the one you choose. Maybe you have a general that's an aviator, so you get a plane from the get-go, or you have one that's a tank, like a tank, and you get a tank.
I like it.
And you have this tiles. You have this 12 by 12 board, and you have tiles all over it, 12 by 12. So 144 tiles, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
But what I want to make out of these tiles, those tiles are going to be the currency of the game. Your goal is to have your soldiers go over these tiles, move to these tiles, flip them, which will reveal terrain. And depending on what terrain you are in, that gets you what the defense for that soldier will be. And then if someone else wants to fight you, the battles will be solved by a dice throw. And depending on your terrain, it either ups your defense, ups your attack, or something like that. But you can also, instead of fighting over a terrain, you can harvest it, I guess. And you can take that terrain with you. You're basically destroying the terrain to bring it with you, and it would be kind of currency for you to buy more units. You'll still have 4, but if you want to replace a unit by a cooler unit, you can just use that currency. But that's about like it. Like that's about like what I've been thinking about. This is something I came up yesterday as we were playing the games. And I definitely want to develop it. I think it would be fun. And I'll just want to make it just for fun and see what happens.
Sure.
Because I do feel like it's something that I want to keep looking at games, because I think it's just something that might already be out there.
Once we're done with Scythe, we're totally going to hit up more war games.
Yeah.
I like that you're looking at a war game, which just means I get to throw out my war games, which is my largest collection of any game. And we'll have a good time with that.
Yeah.
I like that every army is Russian, since you're just scorching.
Yeah, you're basically you're taking over the terrain. And so your goal is to either get your general to another side, like to another player's base, but you have to have a certain amount of those tiles in your stash to do that. But I don't know. I'm sure it'll develop further into something else.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So my pitch here.
Yes.
It's because I'm very bad at names early on. Then I come up with something really awesome. But Dojo Masters. Basically, you are a black belt, and you are opening up your own dojo in town for your super awesome fighting technique. The problem is, all the other players are people, black belts in the same category.
They want
the same fighting
thing.
style. That's the thing is, it's unique in that you're not showing who is the best fighting style, who can be the best with the same fighting style. The fighting style is going to be very unique every time you play. There are a few cards each one is described with an adjective, a noun, and then an origin. And this is based off a game called Sorcerer that isn't out yet, but it's made by the people who made Star Realms, and I like this idea. Ooh. But instead of deck construction, it's more hand construction, where you will, for those who have played Seven Wonders, or done any sort of magic draft or something like that, you'll get a hand of cards. And the cards, for the most part, are going to be moves, cool things that you teach your students. Everybody's going to start with like 2 or 3 students. And during your turn, you're going to take a card, and you're either going to play it or do other actions with it. We'll discuss those in a bit. But on the front side, most of the cards are going to be moves. If your move is unique to your dojo, that means you guys have a signature move. And that's super attractive. That's worth a lot of points. The thing is, there's duplicates of that card. And other people could be like, ooh, you have the Fist of Doom. Well, I, too, now have the Fist of Doom. You both are getting points for it. You're teaching your kids.
Yeah,
but you'll notice there's no combat in that. The idea is not so much combat, and then we'll also come back to that, but much more that you're building the dojo, you're training kids in. The other things you can do is maybe instead of using time to teach moves, if you taught a certain amount, you can instead put a card underneath a student or something and promote them up a belt. Yeah. So they go from white belt to blue belt or orange belt or whatever it goes to, and then they move up, scoring you more points. Maybe, this is again a pitch conceived really not too long ago, maybe if you can get somebody to black belt, that's 2 teachers. That's 2 teachers. Cool. You're scoring a whole bunch of points, but that's a hard thing to do. You probably don't have that many moves. You probably have just enough moves to do that. And whereas somebody else maybe only has 1 black belt and a couple like purple belts, but they are like got a wide array of cool things they're teaching their kids. And then in between rounds, we'll have tournaments or something like that. And it's not necessarily an active thing, but it's much more we look at what everyone has accomplished, where all the belt ranks are, things like that, and you'll be rewarded for the things you did right. You'll be maybe not penalized. Maybe you aren't penalized for what other people did better, but they'll get more points off that.
Right.
And I want to offer it as a way that there's unanimous drafting. At the moment, we're looking at different ways, but right now it's unanimous drafting, Seven Wonders style. So everybody takes a card, puts it down, flips it over at the same time. That way, everybody's move happens at once. That means you can have a large number of players, and it doesn't affect playtime. And then you will take your hand and pass it on. So your moves, like in Seven Wonders, are where you could play a card that benefits you, or take a card that the next person really wants. Let's say you have the Punch of Doom. You get a hand, and the Punch of Doom is in it. If somebody uses that, you are going to lose how special your card is.
Yeah.
So you'll just slide that underneath and maybe use it to promote something. Maybe if we offer like commercials or advertising as an option to recruit more kids. And I was thinking as like in the situation, if we can keep the points low, that offers a lot of tie potential. And when there's tying, I would love for it to be a mix of a game called Rising Sun and Campy Creatures. They both have a tiebreaker mechanic. I'm going to discuss Rising Sun first. Rising Sun has spots on the side of the map equal to the number of people playing, and everybody has a little token there. Everybody has a starting point, but the idea is it's an honor track. Whoever is the most honorable is up top. And you can go up on it through like Seppuku, or doing honorable things.
Kind of commit Sudoku.
Oh
my god.
Or if you do dishonorable things, you move down on the track. The idea is if there's ever a tie, there's no other mechanic to it than whoever's higher on the track. So being more honorable offers those opportunities.
Yeah. So maybe you can get more kids by giving commercials, or you could get more kids by poaching them from the other.
But if you do that's true. If you poach a kid, you lose honor and you drop an honor. So when you send those same kids out to the tournament, they get their butts handed to them because the other person tied with you and their honor is higher. And I love that sort of tiebreaker mechanic. Campy Creatures has a very similar thing where it's a test tube with your monster in it. However, whenever you win a tie, you move, I don't know if you move to the bottom or you move below that person. Right now I'm thinking you just move down a spot, so that way if you keep fighting the person who's on the bottom, and you can keep moving lower and lower. But the idea is, I don't want somebody finding a weird honor mechanic where they can just stay high up the entire game. But also, unlike Rising Sun, you can kind of dig through the dirt. You can recruit Oni to your team who do great when you are doing terrible on honor and just, I am an evil. I kind of want this to be about being good. If you're going to sweep the leg and tell them to there's no fear in this dojo, you may be getting a bunch of dirty points, but I'm looking at maybe the market of the game not benefiting them too much. They're going, if that's the strategy you're going to do, you're taking the long road.
Right.
Whereas the honor people may not be making a lot of points, but their engine's going to build more efficiently. Cool. This is really, we
just came up with these, these things,
I haven't heard of a dojo building game. I'm getting to a point where it's just life experiences. I'm naturally just starting to abstract them. I was talking about making a hatch chili game where you're just farming green chili because I live in New Mexico. I was like, that sounds like fun. I've been working with the jiu-jitsu stuff. What if, it's not so much about fighting each other. It's about, being the best teachers and the best opportunists and that sort of thing. And it's been really fun. Like, how can I turn this? How can I do this? And I've seen it before. People have abstracted coffee into a deck building game where you're trying to get hipsters to join to come. There's one I really missed out on a Kickstarter, where the economy of the game are sugar cubes and coffee beans, and you are a Berlin coffee house, and you're trying to attract all the tourists and the hipsters and get good Yelp reviews. But if there's too many tourists, the hipsters start to complain, and it's like, wow, I love that you took this and turned it into. I really enjoy that. Now, granted, I love my high society and Scythe, which no one abstracted from anything. It's just what they made. War and bidding, but just taking real life experience and doing that has been a lot of fun.
Sure, that's awesome.
But cool. It's a fun idea, and maybe it'll turn into something. I don't know. But summer camp's the main focus.
Cool.
And the dungeon boys.
So next time, like Seven Wonders, we should play Seven Wonders.
I really looking at that.
What was the other one you mentioned?
Here I did mention Five Tribes, Favor of the Pharaoh, Isle of Skye.
Isle of Skye.
I think if we could get Seven Wonders and Isle of Skye under our belts, sake for your Carcassonne fetish, I appreciate that. But the other one you talked about is Altiplano. Right. That is a big game.
Yeah.
So we'll look at it. Yeah. I've come to learn I can't make promises on the games we're going to cover. It's much more what the game nights allow. Yeah. And so we will keep bringing you good stuff. Thank you for coming in. We didn't hit our goal of like an hour, but we're going to be hitting about an hour and a half. So we shaved 20 minutes off our time, and we're going to keep getting better and better at this. Yeah. So thank you for coming in, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And until next time.
Yeah.
Take care.
See you guys.